Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I made it home from the convention a couple hours ago, a few hours ago. We took our time on the way back. Stopped at a really good restaurant, by the way, in Reynolds, Indiana. You ever been there?
Mm-mm.
It's called Mom's Country Kitchen, also USA Cafe. That's where we're going to start stopping on the way going down there. I'm Dion.
And I'm Shawn.
And we're going to talk about the convention. So, obviously, if you guys haven't heard already, Micah Beckwith is the Republican candidate for lieutenant governor going into the general election. And to say that there were some salty tears is an understatement. I'm going to give you guys the full breakdown. It was an event. It was an event. First of all, so we get down there, right? And Shawn's already heard a lot of this story. He got here, a little early, but so I had all my stuff. This is kind of embarrassing, but I had all my stuff laid out to go, and I had my clothes that I was going to wear to the convention all, hung up and nice and pretty, and I had them in the closet. And my thought process was to lay the bags out in the back because we took my SUV and then kind of lay the suitcases and then put the clothes on top of them so they didn't get all wrinkled. Well, the good news is they didn't get wrinkled. The bad news is they got left here.
Oops.
So I had to get new clothes when I got down there. Not that big of a deal. I also, though, was able to obtain some good, some nice Trump gear. I got this Trump hat, and then I got this Trump hat, which it says MAGA right here, right? Look at that, 45, 47. I really like this one. This one here, but I'm a little concerned it might be kind of warm. This one's got the mesh trucker hat back to keep me nice and cool. I tend to get hot. I think I'm gonna wear this and we'll see how it goes. Anyway, we get down there and due to a series of unfortunate circumstances, we were not able to get down there in time to get our credentials, to get to the convention hall, get our credentials, and then go to the various hospitality suites. The hospitality suites were scattered across downtown. The last convention 2 years ago, everything was in one building. So you just went from one hospitality suite to the other. The downside is it was kind of cramped, right? Well, this year, the hospitality suites were like just scattered across downtown. It was one was at the JW Marriott, the other was at the other Marriott, and then one was at Prime 47 Steakhouse. The other was at Punch Bowl. They were all over.
So you had to do a lot of walking.
A lot of walking, and I don't like walking anyway, but I have physical issues. I had back surgery, all kinds of stuff. So I don't like to do a lot of walking.
Understandable.
Yeah. But anyway, one of the things that I found very interesting was the merch, right? The gear. When you get there, sometimes you can kind of tell how things are going to go based on the prevalence of the number of shirts. One of the things that was interesting about this one is, first of all, there was tons of Micah Beckwith gear, right? You got little hands, right? And they handed out these little bags, these little merch bags that are actually pretty good bags. We'll cover all the cool stuff in there, but one of the things that are in there are these little buttons that says I'm a delegate, not a rubber stamp, and they're very easy to spot. I'll show them to you in a little bit. But I saw a lot of people with those little buttons that says I'm a delegate, not a rubber stamp. So I'm starting to think, okay, all right, it's looking like Micah has this. One of the things I will say about the various hospitality suites is the food was gone like immediately. Like if you weren't there in like the first few minutes, the food was gone. You were not eating. By the time we got to like Jim Banks had his at Prime 47 Steakhouse, and like the good stuff was gone in mere moments. Like there wasn't enough food, not even close. The only thing that was left by the time we got there was like some crostinis with goat cheese and jam or something on it, which Liz likes. She likes goat cheese, but like really, that was it. The meatballs were gone, the meat was gone, like all of it was just nothing. And get this, so you go, like we went to the Jim Banks one, which I will say, I don't think it's in here. No, we didn't put it in here, but they handed out these mugs, right? And it's a Jim Banks mug, but it's a nice little coffee mug. In so doing, you entered a drawing to receive a signed MAGA hat.
Okay.
I was like, okay, cool. And in so doing, like you put your name, you put your phone number. They have all this information anyway. We're all delegates, I mean, other than a few guests. You're not giving up anything. So, oh yeah, here's some stuff. Okay. So here's the pens. Awesome. Okay. So here's the, see, there we go.
Okay.
I'm a delegate, not a rubber stamp.
I like
right?
that.
And it's easy to spot. You can see this like from far away. But here's the idea. This is the wife's. But so you got all these people that have the this thing hanging off their neck, right? Delegates. And then you see a whole bunch of these buttons. So you're like, oh yeah, Mike has got this in the bag, right? So some people went to like just one hospitality suite. Some people went to several. We didn't make it to the Braun Julie McGuire one. But my understanding, it was this very somber, quiet, very fancy type of deal. Whereas Micah's, he had a caricature artist there that was free. You just had to get in line, but very pumped. He had 80s arcade games in there.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah, like I got some pictures I'll show you guys. It was interesting. As a matter of fact, let's get some. Let me show you guys what we got here, because it's always better with pictures, right? So this is pretty funny. I don't know if you can see this. Shortly after this happened, it's not coming up here. Hold on. Let's remove that. Hold on. You guys got to see this. It was shortly after it happened. One of the chats that I'm a part of is it said they're already creating memes about the establishment, right? Let's see here. Record scratch, freeze frame. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation. Yeah, you saw it. And it says, congrats to the top of our ticket. But if you look at Mike Braun's face in this picture,
yeah,
to say he looks surprised is an understatement. Let me see.
He thought he had it in the bag.
Yeah. I think he did. I think they thought that this was a done deal, especially. Okay. So the night before, we get a text like hours before, or we're on the way down there or something. Anyway, Julie McGuire got an endorsement from Donald Trump. And the word around the Julie camp and, everyone in general was, it's over. Julie McGuire got the endorsement. And so this is an interesting, as a little bit of an insider, little bit of insider info. I'm not going to say who gave it to me because I protect my sources. But there's an individual who says that various elected officials were so confident that they had it that the visible relief on their faces, they're like, it's over. We got the Trump endorsement, right? For Julie. Now, some people will see this because Michael won. Some people will see this as a we don't care about Trump's endorsement. I look at it a different way personally. I had this conversation with a few people in various chats that I'm in. Trump has always said the power lies in we the people.
He has. I've heard him say that.
He wants us to think for ourselves. Now, we'll come back to this because I think it's an important point. But the fact that these people thought that the Trump endorsement laid it out and it was done shows how reliant they are on things like endorsements, which I've showed you guys before. The sheer stack of letters and postcards and things that we would get from various officials endorsing Julie McGuire. Oh my God. As a matter of fact, the single loudest cheer that could be heard in the convention was when the chair said, well, I got news for you guys. The calls, the mailers, all that stuff is going to stop. Like they raised the roof. People were cheering and clapping because we're sick of it. Oh my God. Especially the week leading up to this convention was just nuts. I mean, absolutely nuts. So we're going to have to go through this kind of weird. I was hoping it would be a little easier to do. But so here we have the wife and I outside. Let's see if this works.
There it goes.
There we go. So this is us outside of the convention center. Right across the street from the convention center, there's this big copper statue of a guy, right? And I'm like, who is this? There's no placard on the front. I'm not that familiar with downtown Indianapolis, so I didn't know who this was.
I don't know either.
Yeah. So apparently he was like the most popular mayor in the history of Indianapolis.
Okay.
And I forget the name. I took a picture of it. I wrote it down, but it's that Commons is named for him. And he was like the longest serving mayor. And it turns out he was a Republican. Interesting. So that was actually, like I said, right across the street from the convention center where that was being held the very next day. We didn't know that at the time because we didn't actually look up exactly where we were going until the next day, but for the convention. But before I get into showing you guys pictures of all the stuff, so one of the interesting parts of it, the night before, we're seeing all these people with the not a rubber stamp, right? But the next day, when we go into the convention, there are shirts for Julie, and there are also shirts for Micah. And the numbers are really close. There's a whole big portion of people who weren't wearing any pins, any buttons, didn't have a Micah, hand, none of that stuff. They're very, hush hush, right? And it's a big enough contingent. It's like a third of people. It could easily go one way or the other. So people are looking at each other like, ooh, I don't know, man.
I wonder if the speech that Mike Braun moved people the other way, or if it was Micah's speech.
So yeah, that was
because we talked about that.
Yeah. So first of all, there was this rules thing that we talked about. What they did. So what happened is they allowed Joseph Borka to address the convention, right? But they were very careful to say rule changes can only happen every 4 years, right? Or the off years. So not this year is what they were very clear. Rule change, but you can bring a motion to amend. State party rules can only change every 4 years, right? But you can bring a motion to amend / change the convention rules, therefore to allow, things like motions and stuff like that. And they're like, we're going to allow that, but we're going to do it after the votes, which I think was smart for a variety of reasons, which I'll get into in a little bit. But so, okay, people are like, all right, the place was just huge. Obviously, it's a convention center, but let's see if we can get a good, So let's see if I have a more zoomed out picture here. Well, first of all, I'm not loving this. You know what? Let's see if I can do this a different way. There. Let's see if this works. And if I drag it. There we go. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So this is the convention hall before the event, or as the event was about to get started, and they've got these various booths. That's where I got the Trump merch, right? They have mica tables set up. These people are going back and forth, looking at the stuff, trying to get some food. I will say the food options were way better. But is there a way to? No. Here is the inside. Okay, so here is the actual inside where they're going to have the delegates sit. Okay, and the chairs, looking at them here, they look like they suck, but they're actually not bad. They were fairly comfortable. You can't really see it, but they're cushioned. There's a decent little cushion on the bottom and a decent little cushion on the back. So it wasn't bad. I will say it's way better than 2 years ago. And that was one of the things that the guy said. He's like, we heard from you. We wanted to expedite the voting process. You want us to do that. And you also wanted better food options. And it was. Was it the greatest food I've ever had? Of course not. You're at a convention, dude. It's, you're not going to get prime rib and,
No.
But it was decent. It was way better than last time. And it wasn't like for downtown Indianapolis at a convention center, it was like $11 for a sandwich. I mean, it's expected, right? It wasn't. I mean, hell, chicken nugget meal at McDonald's is $10 now. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. But I'm going to show you something cool. So at least I think it's cool. More mica stuff. They gave us like pom-poms, right? To shake. It's got a little, and that's another thing, right? So the sheer level of mica gear versus Julie gear. You've got like pom-poms, you got the big, the big fingers, you got all kinds of stuff like that. And then you literally had Julie McGuire shirts. That's like it. That's all they had.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, that's interesting. But one of the things they were handing out are little boxing gloves. Todd Rokita on them, right? And I was like, what the heck? Well, it all made sense once Todd came up and gave his speech, and I was, just so you guys know, I looked for the videos that they played during the convention. I wasn't able to find them. Maybe I can find them later. Todd's was really good. It was a little cheesy, but he's a little cheesy. I mean, not in a bad way, right? But he is a fighter. Love him or hate him. He fights, man. So the boxing gloves was perfect. As a matter of fact, let's see. I think I have. Yep. So here There he is with the boxing gloves, right? And he did his little speech. It was entertaining, right? It was entertaining. It was good. And it talked about how he's going to continue to fight for us and etc.
He's done a lot of different lawsuits against the federal government.
He has.
He has.
He has. And like I said, regardless of how you feel about him, there are those who are like, he's whatever, man. He is a very proactive attorney general.
And then he sends out emails constantly talking about what he's doing.
At least
twice a week,
5 to 10 times a month, I'll get an email from him. Yeah, I mean, I would say at least once a week, but generally several times. You know, I got a stack of them. You know, like it. But I like that. I like the fact that he keeps us informed. I like the fact that he's doing something.
True.
So one of the starkest contrasts in the actual convention was Micah Beckwith. They play his video, which, by the way, was incredible. And I'll say this again. I talked to a few people at the convention who were undecided, right? And they were like, I like Micah, but you know, this is Braun's pick, and I want to go with what Braun wants. And I'm like, okay, why? Well, because and she has Trump's endorsement. So they kind of start to sidestep the do that, right? And you get them to think. And you go, okay, here's my question to you. What was Julie McGuire doing in 2020 at the height of the pandemic?
I have no idea.
Exactly. Nobody knows because she wasn't in the public eye, right? Okay, that's fine. She was a Senate policy analyst.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What was Micah Beckwith doing?
He was out in front.
He was out at the front. He was writing religious exemption letters. He was fighting against government overreach. You guys know YouTube. I can't say what you all know I'm talking about. But which individual has done more to protect me from government overreach? And they were like, that's true.
That's a good argument. And
it's fact, right? It's very fact-based. We're not talking about emotion. So one of the things they're going to try to say, so hold on, I want to interject real quick. Okay. So we had a few people in our group that were, from our neck of the woods, LaPorte County. And they're like, well, I can't vote for Micah. And I'm like, why not? And their reasoning, prepare yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, their reasoning was, and I quote, because Pete Seat said Micah is a political terrorist.
Wow.
Number one, you lost me at because Pete Seat said anything. This is the guy who ran for treasurer, auditor, and said he was qualified to do the job because he had a calculator on his phone.
You really said that?
I kid you not.
Wow.
Yes, he said that. The wife can verify because he said it to her.
Wow.
Yes, I was there when he said it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. That's your qualification. That's your, yes, I can do this job because.
Yeah, that's not a very good argument.
No. So attributing any kind of weight to anything this guy says, he's a theater major, right? I'll let her. Sometimes
I don't know a lot about him.
Yeah, there's a reason he lost.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so they were Julie McGuire shirts, right? And there were like about 4 to 5 people from the 20, 30 delegates that we had who had Julie stuff. And there were about 5 or 6 people, maybe a couple of more, who had Micah Beckwith stuff. The rest had nothing. So we're like, ooh, could go either way, right? But they're going through, and we do the Todd Rokita thing because he's unopposed, right? And he's, and we're all like, yeah.
They did it by voice vote, right?
No, I'll show
you.
Okay, you know what? That's a good. So here's how the voting thing worked, right? We get there, and I'm like, because I had heard some nasty rumors about the way that voting was going to work and all of this. So we get there, and I'm not going to show. I'm not going to like call the gentleman out. But if you look, let's see. I'm going to put us over here. Okay, so this gentleman here in the white shirt was nice enough to come over and talk to us. Okay, he works for the company that was doing the voting. It's contracted out.
Okay.
And the name of the company is ES&S Voting Systems. And apparently they handle voting for like 42 states. Okay. I am not personally a fan of electronic voting. I'm just
No,
not.
I like paper ballots.
So do I. But I'm gonna tell you guys, I said, okay, I have some questions. He's like, by all means. And he was very nice, he was very gracious, and I let him know up front, I don't trust this stuff. And he's like, okay, ask your questions. And again, big shout out to ES&S, and your representative there handled himself extremely, extremely well. So if you look at this table right here, this is where you check in, right? And you have there's this barcode down here, okay? And all that does, they will scan the barcode, and that literally says, okay, they're checked in to vote. So once you get scanned in, if you don't do your voting, if you for some reason you leave the line or whatever, that's it. You're done, right? Okay. But that's it. It's scanned right here at the front in these little tablets. And then all of these machines back here, except for the far back row, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other than those 5 black boxes that you can see with the screen on them, can you see those?
Yeah.
On the podium there. Other than those, all of the other ones are where you vote. Okay. So you go up to it, and they will hand you one of these pieces of paper here. After they scan your ID, they hand you one of these pieces of paper, and they're thermal paper. Okay. So you go to one of these machines here, and they were setting up, you can barely see them, but they're little cardboard, basically blinders or blocks where nobody else can see you vote, right? You take your little piece of paper, which I have a picture up close of the paper, which I'll show you in a minute. But you take that and you feed it into the machine, and then your choices will appear on the screen. You hit your choice, and then it's going to, once you select and you confirm, then it's going to use a laser, basically, because it's thermal paper. It uses heat, and it will print your choice on the ballot, and it's going to spit it back out at you. You take that ballot and you go back to this back machine here, and you feed it in there. So they scan your ID here, then you go to any one of the machines to vote. There's no way to track who votes for who. And that was one of the, they addressed that from the beginning, because that was it's a concern. Mm-hmm. And people were like, how does this work, right? So they did address that, and I talked to the gentleman at length. I was satisfied that there was, at minimum, there's no way to track this person voted for this person. I was satisfied with that. Do I trust the whole? That's another story. But you take that thermal paper, you go back here, you feed it in, and it will tally your vote. And then once everything's done, they take the things from these machines and feed them into a separate thing, and then it tallies them all together.
I see.
None of these machines, allegedly, are connected to the internet in any way, shape, or form. Now, that's the voting process. That's how that is laid out, right? So, okay. Let me show you guys the paper real quick. I don't know why it's defaulting here, but sorry. There. It's literally just a blank sheet of paper, and then when you feed it in, it uses heat, I guess, to put your vote on there, and then you take that piece of paper back to the other one and feed it in. Okay. So I understand the process. I'm all set. We go, we sit down, we get our seats, and eventually, because we got there, since we were so late and didn't get a chance to pick up our credentials the night before, we made sure we were early. We were one of the first people in the building the next morning because we thought more people would be in line. Luckily, there wasn't a big bottleneck at the get your ID. I'm sure most people got there the night before and got their ID, but we took care of it. We found our seats. We were the first ones to go in there and from our section and pick our seats. So we picked right at the end of the row because up and down is easier. Now, the downside to that is I'm going to show you guys all these damn signs. And this is just an example. All these county signs, right? So you got Stark, Rush, Boone. They're in the way if you're at the end. If you're sitting in this seat and you're looking up to the stage, all these stupid freaking signs are in the way.
I see.
So I had to like lean out into the aisle to take pictures. This is the honor guard, by the way, for the presentation of colors. I wanted to make sure to get, a picture of these guys. So I want to show you. Let's see. I'm looking for the picture. I'll have it for you here in just a second. Okay, so this is the, I know I'm kind of bouncing around, but this is the hospitality suite for Micah Beckwith. And as you can see, they had rented several rooms that the walls retract. So it was several large rooms together, and it was plenty of space. Some of the other ones were incredibly cramped, incredibly loud, like Prime 47. It's a restaurant. They had a tiny piece of the restaurant reserved.
I see.
So it's like dozens, if not hundreds of people packed into a tight little section. And then you have to worm your way through the people to go back to the bar and get your drink with your 2 tickets, which drinks cost 2 tickets. So I don't know why they bothered to give 2 tickets if you're going to charge 2 tickets for a drink. Anyway, he gave a very rousing speech during the hospitality suite, but the real speech, the real energy was during the convention. And let's see, is this the one? Yeah, okay. So when Micah Beckwith went up to talk, to give his little, here's why I'm running, play the video, here's him talking. It was a stage full of supporters, all with signs you could see. I mean, and that's like a tiny piece of the whole stage. Like they filled this, basically as many as they'd let him bring, he brought to be behind him, and it showed the solidarity, right? Conversely, I don't know who made this decision, but I really genuinely am not sure who thought this was a good idea. But Julie was up there by herself.
Wow.
Yeah, she walked up by herself. The video that they played was just very low energy. And the majority of it was about Braun's accomplishments. It was Braun. I don't know if like they were going for Braun's the one who nominated her, so you should be about Braun, but it wasn't about what Julie accomplished or what Julie was doing. It was about Braun.
Huh.
It was a really odd choice. And there's a lot of rumors going around about like who did what and why and who was responsible for this and what was. I want to confirm this stuff before I go running my mouth, but I'll say this. once the Trump endorsement came in, they were all sure she was going to take it. They were like, yep, that's it. It's over. And so I know that at minimum, Diego Morales, who, by the way, had endorsed Julie, had sent out a postcard endorsing Julie. Once the votes were counted, and they counted them like 5 times. I don't think they believed it.
They probably didn't.
Yeah, they probably didn't. They said we counted them several times, at minimum 5. That's one of the reasons it took so long, because they kept redoing it. It was 891 to 868 or something like that. I have the exact total somewhere.
I think she had, isn't it 881?
I sent you the totals, didn't I?
You did.
Let's see. If you can bring those up, because my phone's being used right now. But let me tell you. So the couple of the people that were Julie supporters, first of all, when they announced the winner, people cheered, obviously, right? They cheered, yay, scream, high energy. A couple of the people who were in the party with us, who were not Micah supporters, and I want to say this real quick because I found this extremely rude. While Julie was speaking, I didn't see any Micah supporters like holding up Micah stuff or being rude, right? When Micah was speaking, many Julie supporters were holding up Julie signs and razzing and just acting a fool.
Wow.
Despicable behavior. You're disgusting.
That's disrespectful.
It's very disrespectful. Like, seriously, man?
I got the number. You have,
yeah, go ahead.
It's 891 to 828.
That's it. 891 to 828. That's not a huge spread.
No.
But it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's enough. But so the votes are done. They announced the winner, Micah Beckwith. The place erupts in cheers. Julie supporters, not all of them, but enough of them, said all kinds of very not cool things, threw their signs on the ground, and marched out.
Wow.
Didn't even stick around to support her. Didn't no, just like a toddler. I was like, holy cow, seriously?
Wow.
Like, if this is the kind of supporter you have, I am glad you didn't win.
Uh-huh.
And it has nothing to do with her.
No.
She can't control what her supporters do.
No.
But that's some disgusting behavior. It really was. I'm like, wow. And I'm going to tell you, most of the people are older establishment Republicans. I'd say, pre-MAGA or whatever you want to call it, right? Just absolutely sickening behavior. I'm like, damn, dude, like, really? One interesting choice was Micah was in the voting line, shaking hands, talking to people. Julie was sitting down with her like back to the line.
Wow.
Yeah, like not engaging. Now, towards the end she did, but I think it's probably because somebody said, you need to get up and get over there. Because he was actively turning people who had Julie shirts to his side. And they were like, you need to go talk to people. The other thing is in the line, there were multiple, 5, 6, 7, 12, who knows? Micah signs were everywhere. 2, 3, Julie. I mean, it was very noticeable, the difference. And the energy was very different as well. It was almost like for the Julie supporters, it was like you should do this. For the Mike, it's like, we'd love to have you on the team.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
The energy level is just very, very different. Let me see if I got. Oh, one of the things that was really neat. Let's see. Is this it? Yeah. So right above us, there's like this round Indiana GOP, I guess flag. I don't know what you call it, but like some material. It almost looks like a trampoline.
Yeah.
Like suspended, right? And I was like, if that falls, somebody's going to be hurting. But obviously, nothing fell. But yeah, and I think this is Kosciuszko County, which was right in front of us. And then if you look up, there was this giant round Indiana GOP, and it matched like some of the flags that were hanging. Let's see if I can find those. Yeah. So they had these flags kind of hanging down as well. Indiana GOP, right, with the elephant. It was well done. It was a lot better than some of that especially like the previous one. And then of course I got my picture with Micah after we went and congratulated him. There's me. Yeah, I had my Micah shirt on. I actually didn't even have any like Micah gear until we went down there. And I had forgotten my clothes. So I had a decent shirt from the night before, but I'm like, do I want to wear, one of these? Or when we went to the various hospitality suites, one of the things is they gave us was this bag, right? And in the bag, it had Micah t-shirts. They asked us what size, right? So we gave them the size. They threw them in there.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I'm like, you know what? Why not? I'm at this point, I was pretty well decided. So one of the things that got brought up, as a matter of fact, let me see if I have it, because this is an interesting. Well, have you guys noticed how much he looks like Seth MacFarlane? And I'm not even being facetious on this, right? Wife is sitting there. We're in the convention. She'd been muttering this for a while, right? But she's like, again, for like the 3,000th time, I'm exaggerating, but Seth MacFarlane. I'm like, okay, fine, show me. So she pulls it up. She pulls it up side by side, and I'm like, okay, you know what? You're not wrong. You're not wrong. There is definitely a resemblance there. But this I found interesting. So this was later on that night. I sent a message to a buddy of mine, and basically the establishment lost, blah, blah. And he sends me a message here. Put these over here. He's like, I don't know what that means. He's completely out of the loop. He barely even knew where we went this weekend, much less what was happening at the convention. So I sent him a link to the article. And what was interesting is the headline is correct, but the I don't know what you call that. The preview,
The byline?
The what?
The byline? Or
Yeah, the byline, the thumbnail for it, whatever. If you look here, it says Hoosier GOP insiders spurn party establishment. Nominate Beckwith for LG. Okay. The interesting part is the next line. McGuire, who nabbed a last-minute endorsement from presidential candidate Donald Trump, defeated pastor influencer Micah Beckwith. I saved that because I'm like, whoa, that's wrong.
they must have had it already set.
And that's not uncommon to have one for each. But to make the mistake of having these two linked, I found very interesting. The shock on the faces of people who thought Julie had it in the bag was just like, you could see it, right? What I found interesting is Julie McGuire's face almost looked relieved.
With what?
She almost looked relieved.
Oh, relieved.
When she lost. Now, maybe that's just me reading, but I will say she was literally thrown into this. They called her up. It's like, hey, you need to do this. Remember, the establishment spent $600,000 plus on getting her elected. first term state rep, let's say this. So Mike Braun's little speech about Julie, again, was mostly about him. But one of the things that I found interesting that he said was, and this was also a quote from an I believe Indianapolis Star article, because we had stopped by somewhere and they had a paper, and this was the day before the convention, and they were talking about the convention. So we read it real quick. And I think it was a CVS we had stopped at to get something for the wife, right? So the lady who worked behind the counter is like, just take it. And we're like, yeah, we're not doing that. I'm not getting arrested and going to an Indianapolis prison over a rag newspaper. Not going to happen. How much is it? She's like, I don't even know. I've never sold one in the whole time I've worked here. I was like, wait, what? You've never sold a paper? She's like, nope, not one.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, what? But this other lady came and it's scanned. And anyway, you read the article, and one of the quotes was really, really interesting. And it was them asking Braun, why did you pick someone and not just back Micah? Or why did you choose Julie or whatever? The quote was, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but this basically the core of it's the same. Everyone that wanted to be lieutenant governor wanted to bring their own agenda into the office. I wanted someone who was, and again, this is not the exact quote, but it's really essentially what he said. I wanted someone who was going to do what I told them.
Wow.
And really, and it may change, because there are rumors that the party's planning on changing how lieutenant governor is chosen, which would not surprise me at all.
I even said that after this happened.
Yeah. But in the meantime, either you have delegates that go and pick the lieutenant governor, or AG and lieutenant, or not AG, or the governor picks their running mate without any kind of anything. They just pick them. If that's what you want, go to that system. But as of right now, the delegates choose who the lieutenant governor is. It turns out it was the 90s since this has happened, since somebody ran independent.
Okay. Don't the delegates pick the Secretary of State nominee too? Yeah.
Yeah. So Attorney General, which Rokita was unopposed in this race. Secretary of State, Attorney General, Secretary of State, Treasurer, Auditor, and Lieutenant Governor.
But that's in 2 years. It's going to be, right?
2 years, it's going to be Secretary of State, Auditor, and Treasurer.
Did he say he's going to run again? Secretary of State. His name.
Oh,
I can't think of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know whether he's going to run, but I highly recommend that. So get this.
I know what you're.
So I have not been able to confirm this, but I was told that Diego doesn't even have full security clearance for his office, and his deputies need to be briefed.
That's what you were saying earlier.
That's why he's able to travel across the state and have all these photo ops, because he can't do half the duties of his office. So I urge anyone who's considering Secretary of State run, start getting it together, get your people together, and start seriously considering. Diego Morales had a hospitality suite, right? And I'm going to say this, even the Braun McGuire one had a decent number of people at it. I didn't see anyone going in and out of Diego's. Oh, I'm sorry. I saw one guy. I saw one guy coming out.
Was it Diego?
It wasn't Diego. It was a delegate. He had the thing around his neck. But when he came out, he was like, if that was you, if you happen to be coming out of Diego and you recognize me, let me know. I'd love to get an insider's view on what it was like in there. No. After what happened with Diego and my wife a few years ago, Diego Morales can kiss my. Anyway,
Anyway,
but aside from that, I haven't noticed anything other than photo ops since he's been Secretary of State.
yeah, you don't hear much about him at all.
I mean, I haven't seen any real changes or improvements since he's been Secretary of State. And that's regardless of how I feel about someone, that's my metric. What did you do while you were in that elected, office? Nothing, in my opinion. Nothing. So, and any good that was done, I can almost guarantee was by his deputies and not him. That's just how it is. As I get more information, because I got a couple of people now who, since I have not, revealed them, they're starting to trust me more and give me information. I will always protect you, protect your identity. Those of you who want to, contact me and let me know what's really going on. I will not tell people who you are because it's not up to me to do that. But I have, let's see, I got a couple more pictures here. I got some videos, but the audio did not come out very well. Let's see, is this, yeah, so here's, so after, oh, that's the other thing. So after Micah won, right? Braun felt it was necessary to tell all these, like the reporters and stuff that were asking him for quotes. He felt it was necessary to tell people, basically I'm in charge. Well, no shit. You're the governor. Of course you're in charge. But basically trying to say, Micah needs to stay in line and understand that I'm in charge. Wow. Okay, you're off to a real bad start for somebody who only won by small percentages. Let's face it, Hoosiers were not excited to have you as the governor candidate, dude.
I wasn't.
None of us were. Like, there might be a handful of people. He only it was in the 30-something%. You know, he didn't win by huge margins.
No, it was a crowded field.
It was a very crowded field.
Wasn't there 7?
Yeah.
I think there were 7 candidates.
Yeah, 7 candidates. And he didn't, put it this way, if it was a convention, there would have been multiple rounds because he didn't win with 50+1% of the vote. So.
And there's other choices that people are going to be able to choose. There's rainwater, and then I heard that, what's her name, is going to be on a ticket too.
Yeah, so the Democrat is Jennifer McCormick.
Okay.
She was the Secretary of Education.
Wasn't she a Republican at one time?
Allegedly. Yeah, she was a rhino.
Okay.
And she just finally, after she got outed as a Democrat, she decided to go actually show she was a Democrat. One thing I will say that I found interesting at the convention is the teachers union showed up and had a table.
Wow.
That's props.
Yeah.
Props. I had nothing to say to them because my children aren't in school anymore. I don't really.
But at least they showed up.
Exactly. Yeah. And it gave people an opportunity to have a conversation with them. And I respect that. Because they're not popular.
No.
Not with the Republicans. They are not popular right now. The teachers union is not the favorite, but they showed up. They were there, and people were given the opportunity to ask them some questions. They were out in the hallway along with like the MAGA vendors and a couple of cool things that I got, which I'm probably going to put on my hats because I think they're cool. Is some little pins that I got. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's basically the presidential seal and then the Trump signature. I'll pass these to you so you can look at them.
All right.
Cool. I know you can't really see them there, but
this is pretty cool.
It's pretty neat, right? They're like $5. Not bad. There are a couple of little. Oh wait, one more thing I want to show you guys.
Oh, that's cool.
I got some Trump 2024 socks. I don't know if you guys know who Dr. Cook is. He was very, very prevalent in the Republican Party here in LaPorte County for many, many, many years. He passed away last year, unfortunately. But he had a pair of Trump socks that his son bought him as a joke, right? He wore them almost daily. We would have to get him at night because he became very feeble and infirm, and there were people that had to take care of him. But they'd have to get him to give his socks so that they could go in the washer that night and be ready for him to wear the next day.
Was he in elected office, or was he just part of the party?
He was just a guy who was very
okay.
with the party. Yeah, he never wanted to be elected. He just wanted to support people who ran for office that he believed in.
Okay.
So he, do you know, MedWatch used to be MedWatch. Now it's when you go down Franklin Street, right, and you pass Starbucks and Shoop's, the little medical care, the little urgent care clinic.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, it used to be MedWatch.
Okay.
He started that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the first like minute clinic in Michigan City, and it was, the little urgent care type deal. Yeah, he invented it. So he ran that for a number of years with him and his wife.
80s, 90s.
I think he was like 90.
I meant like in the 1980s or 1990s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he ran that for a number of years, and then Franciscan came to him and was like, "We'd like to buy you out," and so he sold it.
Okay.
Yeah. But so he loved Donald Trump. He had all kinds of Trump stuff, but his socks were his favorite. And I bought these. They didn't have it. Actually had Donald Trump like his face on the socks. They didn't have any of those. But I bought these as an homage to Dr. Cook. I saw him. I was like, I'm getting me some Trump socks. Obviously, you got pants on, you're not gonna be able to see them. But yeah, a little nod to him. He's no longer with us. So someone needs to carry on the Trump sock tradition. Might as well be me, right? But overall, it was an interesting event. I think when we go, if we get elected, wife and I again in a couple of years, I think we're going to skip the hospitality suites unless there's one we really want to go to. So on one of them was at Punch Bowl, and that was Randy Niemeyer, Randy Niemeyer. Sometimes I mispronounce his name. Sorry, Randy. Let's see.
Didn't you say Yakum?
Yeah, Rudy Yakum, a couple other people, and that was pretty good. That was a decent area. It was in a larger establishment, but some of the party chairs were there, and it was an interesting. You know what? It was an interesting dichotomy because Mike Simpson from Porter County was there talking to Al Stevens from LaPorte County. And Al happened to have a button that said, "I'm a rubber stamp, I'm a delegate, not a rubber stamp," like we talked about. And Mike Simpson had a shirt that had Julie McGuire, right? And they were talking about it. They weren't planning on changing each other's minds, right? But they were friendly.
And that's how it should be.
Thank you. Exactly. And you know what? I had a lot of respect for both of them in that moment because there was drinks flowing and people could have been idiots, but they were both just talking.
And the objective should be the same, to get Republicans elected. We need to unite as a party.
Right. So let me ask you as an outsider, right?
Okay.
So this is a good thing to end on. One of the things that Joseph Bortka, when I had him on, one of the things he was talking about was he believes that the purpose of the Republican Party should be more or greater than simply to get people elected. What's your take? Do you think that that's the case, or do you think that that should be the only goal of the Republican Party, quote, establishment?
It should be also, yes, it should be to get people elected, but it should also project the debate so that if people are elected, we can win those debates and then actually move forward with the agenda. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like to think, I kind of follow. And okay, so interesting thing. I want to talk about the Bortka thing real quick.
Okay.
I almost forgot. Sorry. So I talked to a lot of people at the convention, right? I handed out the card. Do I have them? Yeah. So I had some business cards made before the convention that has the show on it, right? It's got my contact info on the back. I handed out as many of those as I could because if I'm going to have them, I might as well hand them out, right? So if any of you that I met at the convention are watching, thanks for tuning in. But I talked to a lot of people about the resolutions that Bortka had gone in front of the rules committee. And speaking of, the rules committee had happened at 3:30 the previous day because of a series of unforeseen circumstances. We had planned to go down and make it to the rules committee because I wanted to see what happened. They locked the doors at 3 minutes and 1 second, or excuse me, 3 o'clock, 1 second. Ka-chunk, you weren't getting in. So if you were late, you were SOL. We were late. We did not get in. It's okay. But one of the things that I encountered in talking to these people is like, I didn't like this aspect of this larger proposal, right? So I like, for example, A, B, but I didn't like C and D. Or I liked B, but I didn't like A, C, and D of this proposal, right? Or resolution or whatever. They were like, if these were presented in their entirety, if they give us an opportunity to vote on these, I'm going to have to vote no. And I was like, interesting. So you would prefer to vote no overall resolution than accept a small piece of it that you don't like. Like, for example, yeah. And they were like, absolutely. Because we can always bring it up later. We can always amend it later. We can always, I'm like, I think they should have been brought individually. They were like, if they had like, and I'm throwing spitballs here, but because it was a lot of different conversations that I'm trying to cram into one explanation. But for example, the election one, right? I think poll books are okay, but I don't think, the machines are good, right? For example. So if we eliminate the poll books, that's a lot of work for the county clerks and the people who work elections. And this was one person, I happen to work elections, and it's a nightmare to get people to work them as it is. Like, it's almost impossible. Every year we have less people signing up. So if you create a bigger workload for them, we're going to have even less people that we see. I was like, okay, it's an interesting perspective, right? Because we're as voters, as delegates even, and some of you are elected officials, we hear often from people that are like, yeah, these machines suck. We don't want these machines, right? How many people are talking to the people who work elections and asking them, how much easier do they make your job? If they were to be eliminated, would you, and you went back to the big books you have to lug around, would you continue to work elections? I think these are valid questions to ask. Like they said, they have a hard time getting people to work as it is. That's something that Heather confirmed. Heather Stevens, she's the county clerk of LaPorte County. I had her on the show and we talked about it. She's like, yeah, it's hard to get people to work elections. That's one of the reasons why they went to polling centers versus precinct level voting, was because then you need less people. Every year election time comes around and you see these posts. Hey, we need people to work. Sign, call this person, call that person, do this, do that. And every year we come up on it and they're like, hey, we still need people to work, da-da-da-da-da. So it is definitely something I think that has multiple layers that really, people need to understand. But at the end of the day, the resolutions that were that people liked were generally folded in with stuff they didn't like. So had it come to a floor vote, which it didn't, but had it come to a floor vote, I'm not sure it would have passed anyway. So at the end of, so what they decided to do was they would have the voting for the candidates first. Once that was done, they would allow Mr. Borka to address and basically say what he wanted. They gave him 2 minutes. Okay. And then they would have someone basically against it who could speak for 2 minutes. And then they would either put it to a vote or whatever. So Joseph Borka came up. He said what he had to say. The counter argument or the whatever, right? The other guy comes up and he's like, you can only do, number one, Robert's Rules of Order don't apply to this convention. And someone made a very, very good point, right? The reason that Robert's rules don't apply is because you cannot have a place filled with 1,800 plus people and allow people just willy-nilly to say point of order, point of order, point of order. You'll be there all freaking week. Okay, fair. So you do have to have some degree of change made. Okay. And the other thing, it's stated clearly that state party rules can only be changed on midterms, right? So not presidential election. So 2026. Now I will say this. I do definitely anticipate some rule changes coming up, whether that is to prevent this from happening or whether this is to, allow people to have their voice heard in the Republican Party is going to be really interesting.
The establishment's going to strike back.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I'm glad you said that because one of the things that I noticed, the overarching theme by the end of the day was shock.
Yeah.
They could not believe that even with a Trump endorsement, she lost. And they asked people, they said, well, there were various media outlets, right, who are trying to now report that, Trump has lost his power in the Republican Party.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that either. As a matter of fact, the people that they interviewed are like, dude, I love Donald Trump. I'm going to be voting for Donald Trump. If I had to walk on broken glass barefoot to do it, I'm voting for Trump. But his endorsement is a different thing. He doesn't know what's happening in Indiana.
Yeah.
And Braun even admitted when he went up there and he's talking about, Julie and the reason he chose her. And then he called Trump. And that was his thing. Basically, he's trying to get people to I guess, vote for Julie and that's why he's going to be a good governor because he can just call up Trump.
That's a weird thing to say.
That's a weird thing to say.
Even if he does win the presidency, he's got other matters to.
Not only that, why do you need to call Donald Trump? You're supposed to be the head, head of the government for the state of Indiana. So another thing that he said, and the reason that he chose Julie was because he wanted someone with legislative experience. Okay. But he wanted to, and this is a quote, to foster goodwill with the legislature. So basically, you want someone that the legislature has put their seal of approval on.
That's a good point.
And then they're allowed to just do whatever they want because the lieutenant governor serves as president of the Senate. Yeah. Micah has already said, I plan on being involved. I plan on being a very active part of the Senate.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be very interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the kind of elephant in the room, right? And then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
So one of the things that we're now hearing, and we're going to hear it more and more and more up till the general election, is they elected, or they now have a far-right Christian nationalist.
They're already starting that.
They're already starting that. Christian nationalist. First of all, what does that mean? What is a Christian nationalist? Do you know what that term means?
I don't, but I hear about it a lot.
The wife and I were talking about this on the way back, driving home from Indy. Ilhan Omar and a bunch of the crew, right? It's perfectly okay being a Muslim. It's perfectly okay being Jewish. It's perfectly okay being all whatever religion, right? Baptist or Catholic. Biden's a Catholic, allegedly, right? Those are perfectly fine. But if for some reason you're a pastor, a straight white male Christian, that's a problem. Why?
That's a good question.
Yeah, we talked before about how we all bring our identity into what we are, and that's perfectly okay if you're part of the LGBT, elemental P movement, whatever. That's okay. If you're alphabet people, that's fine. You're celebrating. Yes, queen, all of that, right? That's a great thing for these people. But if you're a Christian, oh my goodness, right? It's going to be very interesting. But the thing that I want people to keep in mind, because you can expect the left to go buck wild with this, and more and more leading up to the general election. First of all, the same people who want to tell us how bad it is for Micah to be a pastor are the same people who said, I don't know why he's running anyway. The lieutenant governor doesn't have very much power.
Then why do you care?
Then why do you care?
Yeah.
The other thing is they're right to a degree. The lieutenant governor doesn't have that much power. They don't set policies. They don't set agendas. They don't control. It's not like they can create new laws. They have no legislative powers. They're part of the executive branch.
Yep.
The reason that so many of us wanted Micah Beckwith as lieutenant governor is because when the chips were down, he stood up for we the people. He said, no, this is garbage. No, I'm not going along with that. No, I'm speaking up. I think one of the things that hurt Suzanne Crouch in her bid as governor was the fact that she didn't do any of that when she was lieutenant governor. Now, don't get me wrong, I get why. I understand. But understanding and agreeing are two different things. I understand why she didn't. But by the time they had the debate, and by the time she said, I give Holcomb a C on the pandemic, too little, too late. She did not distance herself from that whole hunker down Holcomb bull. And so I want someone who has a history of speaking up, who has a history of doing what they can within their power and their sphere of influence for we the people. That's why Michael won, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens. Just remember, the lieutenant governor, he's not going to, the level of rhetoric I've already seen, and it's only going to get worse come November. The lieutenant governor cannot change legislative policy. He can't ban abortions. He can't criminalize being LGBT, whatever. He can't do any of that. What are you afraid of? Genuine question. What are you afraid of? And remember, when people are like, well, you can't, separation of church and state, you can't run things from a Christian perspective. The entirety of the morals of the United States come from the morals of Christianity. That's just how it is. We've talked about that before, but it's going to be an interesting.
It will.
It's going to be an interesting election. I think Braun needs to be careful He has a very good chance of alienating the people who are reluctantly voting for him just so they don't have to vote for someone else already. So embrace Micah. Be like, okay, yeah, together we're. Oh, that was another thing. Another thing, I promise. So the two speeches, right, that Micah and Julie gave. And even Braun, after Micah won, you can read his quote, everything you want, I want. Well, then why were you so against him? Why were you so adamant about putting someone up and begging Trump for an endorsement so you could get her over the finish line? Why were you so worried? I personally think it's because, now, allegedly, Braun is an outsider, right? He won as an outsider, is right? If that's the case, then he needs to fire his team because it's some of the swampiest insiders that exist. I'm just letting you know, look into them, do your research, look into who these people are. He needs to clean house, especially now that he's not tied to the establishment anymore. Julie's gone. There's no need to have these swamp creatures around you. None. Embrace Micah. Forge a real relationship moving forward.
But he also risked maybe having the establishment not vote for him, though. That's what he's going to be thinking.
But who else are they going to vote for?
They'll just stay home.
I mean, that's a valid consideration, but now maybe he's thinking long term. Maybe he's thinking, let me get past the finish line, and then
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, either way, it's going to be interesting, and we'll keep you guys informed. I'm going to have to go through. We'll definitely have a video for you tomorrow night and the next night. I'm not sure if I'll be live. I got a whole lot of recuperating, and I got to unpack, and I got to do all that. But I wanted to make sure we'd let you guys know what was happening. And I got a ton of pictures. I'll be throwing them up on the old Facebook at Dion's Daily Dose here, so you guys can see. I got a couple of videos. I'm going to see if I can improve the audio. And a couple of the speeches were pretty good. I wish I could get my hands on the videos that they played, because the videos were actually really good. And it's, again, especially Micah's, and I liked Rokita's. The Julie McGuire was, look what Braun did.
That's really weird.
It is
showcase.
It's bizarre, man. It's bizarre. But for those of you who attended, or maybe those of you who wondered what happened, I was very, very disappointed in the behavior of the Julie McGuire people after Micah won. I mean, not just after he won, but while he was giving his speech, they're holding signs up and just running their mouths. Like, that was one reason. And I was kind of stuck in the middle there to the right side. I could not see the entirety of the seating area. If Micah supporters were acting a fool and you saw it and you have some evidence of it, by all means, let me know. I didn't see that. What I did see is Julie McGuire supporters acting a fool while Micah was talking. So, yeah, it is what it is. But we'll see you again very soon.
Yep.
What does your schedule look like? Do you know yet?
Wednesday and Saturday.
Wednesday and Saturday you're available. Okay, so Wednesday night we'll do a video, and probably Saturday too. We'll see, depending on what we got going on. But don't forget to tune in Wednesday morning, ladies and gentlemen, for coffee break. Buddy Jim, we got some interesting stuff coming up for you. So without further ado, God bless you, God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon. Good night.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Shawn Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.